Hello, welcome to my channel where I will be discussing all things books. Books that I read either in book format or on my wonderful little Kindle device. Right now, I'm going to discuss this one book I just read, and I read it in 1 week, which is pretty remarkable considering my crazy work schedule and everything. And I'm like, I can't believe how quickly I read it. It is called I Am Hutterite by Mary Ann Kirkby. I'm sorry, you will hear a dog squeaking a toy. That is my dog playing with her toy. So this is about a woman who lives in Canada, and she's part of what's called the Hutterite colonies. So they're like these very religious people live in these colonies together, and they're very, very close-knit communities. And they like in their colonies, they can just kind of go into each other's houses and eat basically and hang out, and it's just a whole different way of life. And so it basically explores that and how she became like Americanized, like when she was older. Like when she was older and then when she was like a senior in high school, she ended up working at the A&W restaurant. So it was like all about her journey and to be honest, at first when I picked it up, the first two chapters were kind of very, very slow, and because there was like a lot of backstory about her parents and their parents' journey into being Hutterite. And so it was kind of slow, and every time I'd pick it up, I would kind of fall asleep. It would take me like 2 minutes, and I'd be falling asleep, and then I'd wake up and I'd like, okay, I'm going to read a little bit, and still put me to sleep. So I warn you, the first two chapters are kind of a little bit, it reads more like, almost like historical fiction or like a history book. But then as you get going on it, it kind of talks about her life and, like what it was like for her growing up. So then eventually it comes into her own, and it's not so much backstory of like her parents. It's like her story and what her life was like growing up. And then it became like really fascinating after you got past the historical parts of like the first two chapters. Then by about chapter 4 or 5, there's only 11 chapters, but the chapters are rather long. But when it got to about chapter 4 or 5, I started to pick up, and you start hearing about what it was like for her going to school, what it was like going to a Hutterite school. And the one part that really fascinated me was like every day they get to take a nap. At like 2 o'clock or 1 or 2 o'clock, they get to go home and take a nap. They'd have like, and then I think they get ready for dinner. It just seems like, and now that the more I read about it, I'm like I kind of in a way envy them because they're such a close knit community. They're all there for each other. They're all good friends, and they have so much food they don't even want for nothing hardly. But then later on, you see when she goes to like in a like more they move away from the colony, and she has to try and go to like a more like Americanized type school, and her battles to fit in, and while everyone else is wearing the latest outfits, she's still wearing her Hutterite dresses, and it's just her journey trying to not lose her culture, but at the same time trying to fit in with her new way of life and her parents. In one scene, in one part of the book, actually, she was supposed to be doing square dancing for school as part of the curriculum, and her dad did not want her to have any part of that. He believed that dancing was quote unquote a sin. And so it was just, and she was just like, oh, if I don't do this, I'm gonna be left out. And then it's kind of funny. There was kind of a hysterical scene where her lunches, she was like envying one of her classmates' lunches, and hers were just so like horrible and everything. But as I said, I can't even remember when I got this book. I got it on my Kindle. I must have downloaded it maybe like a couple years ago or something, and because it sounded fascinating. And it really was. It was really fascinating to hear about like how one girl just, like I said, and she still was able to maintain. She was still able to go visit her colony after she left and visit everybody, like all of her family and her friends there. But so she had like a little bit of both worlds. But like I said, the first 3 chapters are kind of long, kind of boring. Like I said, it reads more like a historical fiction. And it doesn't really seem like, it kind of reads like, this is based on, like, this is a fiction story based on real events, but it was actually true. It's just a lot of backstory. But then you'll see it all come together, and like their culture, and it kind of reminds me in a way of like the Amish way of life. Like they have no electricity, they're not allowed to have radios to listen to music. So it was very much like reminiscent of like Amish culture too. So I thought that was like a very, like I said, I don't even know when I got this book, but I found it very, very fascinating. Once I got going, I would try and read like a chapter in the morning before I would leave for work, and so it helped me finish in like a week. Normally I cannot finish books that quickly because I'm just so busy. But yeah, so I do. I think I give this book probably, I would say probably about 3 stars. I would love to give it like 5, but 4 or 5. But like I said, the beginning chapters were kind of long, and a lot of times it feels like a history book rather than like an enjoyment book. Like a, but it does get better. The last few chapters are really interesting. Like I said, how she comes into being and how she comes to become more of an American culture and such. So I think I do recommend this book, but I do give it 3 out of 5 stars. And now my next read that I believe I got from Hobby My Grocery Store, I think, because it looked really good, is called Flight Patterns by Kieran White. This is going to be my next novel. So it'll be nice because the past 2 books I read have been nonfiction, and they were kind of heavy reads, just about, people's way of life and, kind of serious. So it's be kind of nice taking like a little fiction book. My next read. Yeah, Flight Patterns. I'll be doing another video when I finish this hefty book momentarily. Thanks for watching.